All right, I'm live. Okay. Um I have a special guest, Ellie, coming on. But I'm gonna wait for a couple people to get on in here. I uh I have to have this discussion. I have to vent a little. And I'll explain why here in just a minute. Um Jen, wow, what's up? Nice to have you in here. Just watching the verdict. Well, it's verdict watch. What's up, Snap Dog? How are you, sir? Nice to have you in here. Not yet. No verdict. We're on verdict watch. Snap Dog, man. Really good to see you. King Bluto, good morning to you too, sir. Nice to have you here. Waiting for Ellie to jump on and we'll discuss some things and stuff. Good morning, Matthew. Nice to have you here as well. Yeah, still waiting, Jen. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Uh, I've been having audio issues off and on with this program. I don't know what's going on here, but I'll try to correct. The amount of mental gymnastics that people do in order to justify the unjustifiable is crazy. Mike Stevens, welcome. Nice to have you here as well. Yes, you did see King Solomon. He was on the last hot tub, Matthew. So it's good to see him back. Mick T, welcome. Nice to have you here. Merry Xmas to you as well, sir. Um, Ellie, you're on.
Hello and good morning and happy holidays to everyone. Hope everybody's
Yes.
having a fabulous day.
I am, but I'm a little riled up this morning, Ellie. Uh,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I know. Um, I mean, me get riled, Ellie? That never happens, right? I mean, it's
Well, you can't get upset because some people get their, fifis hurt.
okay. What you're referring to, Ellie? Let's fill everybody in here. We are watching the Elijah McClain EMT trial. Now, I
Well,
want to say,
technically, hold on. Technically, it's the verdict watch that we're now watching.
yeah. Well, it's still the trial. You know what I mean? We are on verdict watch, but it is the trial. But here, let me. I I I hate this. Okay, anytime that there's a big profile case, right? Whether it be George Floyd, Elijah McClain, you could name a myriad of other cases. It's always that person's trial, right? Elijah McClain is not on trial here. The EMTs are. So more accurately, it's the Cooper and however you say his last name, Chizizniak trial. So that bothers me. And it's always bothered me because George Floyd wasn't on trial. It was Derek Chauvin trial, right? Derek Chauvin was the one that was put on trial, not George Floyd. So let me get that out of the way.
But they
And
did try. They did try by bringing up his past
right,
and, what he was, quote, alleged to have done. And some people wanted to presume that he was guilty when, no charges were filed. But
right.
in Elijah's case, he absolutely had no um, trial or charges. Hi, free word. Did
We were
anybody fess up to your stolen burger? I hope you find it soon.
nice to
Attention,
have
there is a missing burger out there. It belongs to free word. If you find it, please return it immediately.
you.
There
Right.
is a reward of French fries being offered.
Oh wow, French fries even. Wow, that's special. Mike Stevens, welcome. Nice to have you here. And Free Word, very nice to have you as well. I had to get out of that other chat, Free Word. I'm a little heated, Ellie, and I'm going to tell you why. I Okay, I'm not going to mention the person, but there's a person that's in that chat while we're waiting.
Or
Uh,
persons.
Persons, right? That are doing some things that I hate, right? one of the things is mental gymnastics, right? I use that term quite often, mental gymnastics. And what do I mean by that? Mental gymnastics is, let's say two people are having an argument, right? One person is clearly in the right, one person is clearly in the wrong, but the person that is wrong will justify their position by throwing a bunch of things against the wall and hoping something sticks. That's the most crude way that I can discuss mental gymnastics. They will twist and turn themselves into pretzels in order to um, in order to justify their position, and that happens quite often in these trials, Ellie. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's always those few people that will be the contrarians no matter what type of evidence is right in front of their face, right?
So in other words, provocateurs
Provocateurs.
that
That's
come
right.
in with their own narrative to change it because you have to be a little more understanding, MLH. And I have to call you out for this. And I think Free Word would agree
Yeah.
that, listen, if you have been in the position of being part of the Thin Blue Line gang
Hmm.
or somebody in your family, it is natural that, it runs deep. I mean, that Thin Blue Line runs deeper than actually wearing the little titty badge that they have. So, you have to protect at all cost. And
Right.
that unfortunately involves blaming the victim.
Yeah.
So, when they try to say, and I don't understand why people don't believe this. So let's bring out the facts of the case. So poor Elijah was just dancing, listening to his music on the way home, waving his little hands around, not at anybody. That was not reported. So again, making up facts if they want to say that it was generated to them. Having his iced tea, having a good time, by himself. He enjoyed his own company.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden comes these Thin Blue Line clowns that decide, oh
Hmm.
no, you are going to speak to me and speak to me now,
Right.
even though Elijah said, listen, I don't need to talk to you. I'm just going on my way home. I'm an introvert. Please don't touch me. Then they decide to accost him, throw him to the ground, put him in handcuffs, body slam him, order the medics before they even get on scene to bring the narcs because, we got to get this under control. And, he's begging for his life.
Hmm.
But I understand where they could say that not only was the man vomiting, but handcuffed and had three grown men on top of him. It's easy that he could do a push up. I'm sure he could have probably done 10 or 15, right? But we need to make sure that since the maximum amount is 500 milligrams of ketamine, and let me explain this,
Yeah.
the EMTs were allowed to give a dose of either 300, 400, or 500 milligrams. 300 was for small, 400 was for medium, and 500 was for large. Okay. If they would have given only 300 milligrams
Hmm.
and then it didn't work because he was still breathing, okay, then you can't give another 300 because that would be over the 500 law.
Hmm.
And they would have had to have called in a doctor. And they on the stand said they didn't want to have to waste time making a phone call.
Oh yeah.
So it
Yep.
came down to the phone call that they didn't want to do. So let's just go straight to the maximum amount. Because again, let me try to make sure that people understand this. There were 3 doses that were allowed to have been given. They had
Yeah.
3 doses to choose from: 300, 400, or 500. If they gave 300 and they needed more, okay, because he was still breathing, then even if they gave the lowest amount, 300, 300 equals 600, that would be a no-no.
Right.
Because even if they got permission from the doctor could only have said, well, I can only authorize 250 more. See how it doesn't work? The math does not apply.
Right.
So they decided that, well, paramedic Cooper, or I think, no, Cooper gave it, Cheswiak decided, well, I weigh 250 pounds. So I'll minus 50 pounds and say he weighs 200, which is still over medicating him. Okay. And we'll
Yeah.
just give him the max. However,
Yeah.
again, he weighed 250. Poor Elijah weighed 140. So a difference of
Right.
110 pounds while he already vomited and had to swallow in his own lungs vomit because he couldn't
Right.
breathe. He did not fight the cops. He did not struggle from the cops. Okay. He was struggling to breathe. He said, "I'm sorry. Please help me." Those were
Yeah.
his last words. Please help
Yeah.
me.
I want to touch on something going back to the victim blaming, which I agree with Free Word.
Hi, free words. Thanks for being
Later,
here.
Free Word. Thanks for coming on in. Um, the victim blaming, right? One of the things that was said in this chat here was that Elijah McClain was smart mouthing the cops. I can't get over that, Ellie. I think about that, and this is very, very common with a lot of people.
Well,
It,
actually, and I saw that comment, which was offensive, but I think what got me more
yeah,
is, and it was said multiple times in chat, why didn't he just comply? If he didn't comply, I mean, if he would have complied, this would not have happened. That is victim blaming. He was under no obligation to speak to those police officers because he did nothing wrong. There was no crime reported.
right, right. So that's the first part of it. Meredith, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Meredith.
Hope you enjoy our discussion here. We're waiting the verdict. I've got it up on the screen there, obviously, and we're discussing some stuff that didn't set right with me, Meredith. And I normally don't get this fired up, but I couldn't help it. The victim blaming is just awful, and I think people need to get that out of their lexicon when it comes to these trials, right? I think. Uh, as we're discussing here, we're discussing a couple of things, right? Someone pointed out that if he just complied, this none of this would ever have happened. Janet, welcome. Nice to have you in chat. Um, and I couldn't agree with Ellie more. That is I mean, are we that ignorant and dumb, or that into cops that we think they're that much heroes that we have to comply with every single thing that these idiots, and I'm using it here because it's my channel, these idiots say, because I'm here to tell you that that should not be the case. If that's the case, we've lost our country completely, Ellie. If we have to comply with every single thing that an officer says, whether they're right or wrong, I don't know what type of country we have
Well, I
anymore.
just want to know who put them on a pedestal that they can do no wrong and they are perfect in every way. And again, people are misunderstanding what the charges are. They're not up for murder, they're up for um, neglected homicide, okay, and manslaughter because they did nothing in their own protocol. They never asked him a question. They
Hmm.
never tried to speak to him. They brought the ketamine with them at the request of the police before taking any vitals. You're telling me that you can't check to see if that man has a pulse? You can't do that while he's in handcuffs because you fear for your life. We're now going to start the paramedics for safety rights like police have. You have got to be kidding me. And I'm sorry, but they took on this job. So yes, they are 100%, in my opinion, guilty, okay, of neglected homicide because listen, you got to understand, these people made a conscious decision to inject somebody with ketamine that they knew, even by their own theory, they knew was too much for even for his body weight.
Yeah.
They said that they did not see him in an excited delirium state. They made that decision based on what the cops told them. If you're going to sit there and say, in one hand, that you wanted to protect him from the cops and that's why you did it, then you can't say that he suffered from this fake excited delirium.
I,
You
you know,
can't have one side and
see,
do the other. It makes
that's
no sense.
that's another thing, Ellie. I did a little bit of research on this excited delirium, and it at best it's like a debatable thing amongst doctors, right? So this case is super important. I now realize the importance of this case. I I knew it was important to begin with, right? But now the importance takes on a different meaning, because if these EMTs get away with this, Ellie, and I said this in that chat, then excited delirium is going to be used for everything, right?
Well,
I
that's
mean,
correct. And listen, I'm not saying, nor have you ever heard me say, that the minute that they got that call, that they decided that they were going to take the life of Elijah McClain, because that is the furthest from the truth. I'm not saying that.
mhm,
What I am saying is, the minute they got that call, they decided that those police who have no medical training could give the diagnosis of excited delirium and
yeah,
ask for the narcotics, and they were obliged without the paramedics doing what they are supposed to do. You allowed somebody else to take over your profession.
yeah.
And if that is not neglect, I don't know what is.
I agree, Ellie, 100%. The
And
excited.
before I forget, for anybody who's not familiar with this case, let me point out how much ketamine did Elijah McClain need on August 24th of 2019? The answer is zero. He
Yeah,
needed none. Zero. So not only was he over medicated for his weight, he was over medicated because he should have had zero to begin with.
yeah.
There was no diagnosis or evidence of a
Excited
excited
delirium.
delirium,
Oh,
which
there was.
only seems to happen when cops are involved.
I know, isn't that
You're
weird?
you're not going to see paramedics use ketamine when police are not involved, and that actually came up in the testimony from EMS as well,
Yeah,
where because they needed to protect them, from assault. Well, your job is not to protect the police. Your job is to protect the patient and their rights,
right.
not the police.
Yep. Susie tried. Nice to have you in chat. We're
Hey,
on
Susie.
Verdict Watch. Jamie Todd, welcome. Nice to have you here, sir. Dragonette, nice to have you here. And Westside, thank you for being in here. And Keeper just showed up. Thank you for coming on in and enjoying the discussion. Hopefully you're enjoying it. I'm a little heated. I still can't believe some of the comments in the Verdict Watch. But that's that might just be my
And can
issue.
I bring out one other thing that really annoyed me?
Of course.
Well, actually, a lot annoyed me,
Yeah.
but another one that keeps happening.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God or anything that you hold dear, stop comparing the Elijah McClain case with the Take
George
Care of
Floyd.
Maya case,
Oh yeah, they're different.
because they are totally two different things. Okay. Totally two different trials for specific reasons. Okay. It
Yeah.
was because Maya was kept from her parents. It was because Maya's mother took her life because of the actions of them, because there was a disagreement on ketamine. But when Maya received ketamine, it was always under the doctor's care in a medical facility, not
Yeah.
just given to her willy nilly, whether you agree with it or not. And I'm not making a stance on that. My stance is, do not compare apples and grapes,
Yeah.
because they have nothing to do with each other.
Nothing. Nothing.
So
Uh,
you sound really uneducated and
yeah.
uninformed when you make a comparison between those trials.
Just as an aside, I don't think any drugs should be given to anybody out in the field. You don't know their allergies, none of that,
Well,
unless
no,
you.
no, I don't agree with that. I mean,
Well,
I think no drugs should be given against somebody's will without doing some type of a evaluation. I mean,
I
can you
agree.
imagine if somebody's shot and they're unconscious? Of course, you have to give them medical treatment. And
Look,
if there was an accident in that, I understand, and that's what insurance is for. And accidents
right.
do happen.
Let me.
I understand that mistakes do happen.
Yeah.
You can't ask somebody who's unconscious, "Are you allergic to penicillin?" You know what I
Let me
mean? But
clarify.
that
Let me,
wasn't the case in
right.
this situation.
Let me clarify. In perfectly lucid situations, I don't think drugs should be given unless, like what you're saying, they do an extensive questioning. Are you allergic to this? Are you allergic to this? Are you allergic? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. By the way, Scottish Fury Freedom Media, thank you for being in chat. I will excuse you for having the Kansas City Chief logo on your avatar, sir. But I'm a big Bronco guy, being from Denver and everything. Caucasian Sasquatch, welcome. Old guy Mitch, welcome. Sasquatch says, I miss MLH being my big spoon. I try to, I lurk a lot in your chat, Sasquatch. A lot of times when you're on, I'm doing other things that, require my full attention. So, it is what it is. Let's see. Yeah, Meredith thought the same thing that you were going to say, George Floyd, which is another unfair comparison, in my opinion. Ghost Eagle, welcome. Nice to have you here,
Well,
sir.
there is, and George Floyd was not shot up with ketamine. You
Right.
know what I mean? He was dead at the scene because he couldn't breathe. Which, that's the only comparison, is that Elijah could not breathe also. You let him vomit, and don't say you didn't know he wasn't vomiting, because they themselves said that they stepped in his vomit.
Right.
So again, you cannot sit there and make up your own things. Those provocateurs that want to come in because they just like to argue when you say the sky is blue and they say, no, it's pink with yellow and purple polka dots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They just do it because they want to get a reaction. And sometimes, listen, I'll be honest, I like to troll with them myself
Yeah.
because you get a little bored. So, but don't put out misfacts about the case. If you did not watch it, if you have not been part of it, just because you have somebody within your family or yourself that has
Right.
the history of being in, 911 dispatch, which, listen, let's be honest, the 911 dispatcher was absolutely wrong in this case as well.
Yeah.
Was the caller wrong? Yes, absolutely. But he was a 17-year-old kid that was taught, see something, say something. That falls on the government and his parents to instill that. How
Yeah.
about see something, mind your business? Okay. And the police could absolutely have just been driving. They could have parked. They could have watched him to see. They would have noticed that, he was listening to music, that he was doing no harm. No
Right.
crime was reported except that he was sketchy. And
Right.
sketchy is not a crime.
Right.
Being different is not a crime.
Right.
Actually, being different is an opinion.
Right.
What you
Veronica.
think is different, I might think is normal.
Right. Veronica, welcome. Nice to have you in chat as well. Sasquatch says, you listen and wish you could talk like me. I do wish I could talk like Caucasian Sasquatch. He's another one that has just an awesome voice. Ellie, I like
Oh, Jamie, you should see the brainwashing going in there. Well, if the police didn't think it was necessary, they wouldn't have done it. OMG. Or, well, two were acquitted, so they must not be guilty. No, let me explain about that. See, the reason that they separated the trials and didn't prosecute them all, it was so there could be the finger pointing game, the blame game. That was the strategy that the defense used.
And it was brilliant. It's brilliant.
It was on their case, but the jury didn't get to hear all the facts, so you can't blame them in this. And they didn't all take the stand. So you kind of sit back and think, well, who's saying what, and why isn't this person taking the stand, but this one did? So, it can get confusing. But this case, where they both took the stand, and I mean, Cooper, believe it or not, was even dumber than the other one, because he was just vomiting out the truth and couldn't help it.
Yeah, I couldn't help it.
And showing his guilt. That, I think the problem, and this is again just my opinion because we can't know, but I think the jury has taken this very seriously. But I do not think that they believe in an acquittal, because if they did, that verdict would be in. So I think that they're having an issue between manslaughter and the neglected homicide charge. And they're trying to figure that out, because otherwise, or we have a hung jury and we just have people that are holding out. No way do we have 12 people that think that these people are innocent, or we'd have a verdict.
Right. Jamie Todd, I did watch the videos. I'll talk with you about that on Grinders, Jamie. I have my issues with one of the videos in particular, but it's nothing that we can't talk and squabble about, I'm sure.
Meredith, I'm so glad you're in chat. I just want to say welcome. I'm really glad that you're a new subscriber, and I enjoy listening to your comments in the other chat.
Who are you talking about?
Meredith. And I do suggest that people listen. I do want to suggest that, it's the Law and Crime Trial not the Long Crime Network, if you do want to watch or catch up on the Elijah McClain case, because I think it's important, and listen to the testimony from the defendants themselves.
Yeah. Kip 24U, welcome. Nice to have you here.
Kip is here. Hi, Kip.
I don't know if it's our Kip, Kip LA, but it's a
No,
different.
no. It's Kip from the other chat.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. Kip 24U, welcome. Nice to have you here. Welcome on in. I didn't try to snipe. I did. I did try to snipe a few people over here just to, have a good, well-rounded discussion and not talk about victim blaming and stuff like that, because victim blaming is, I think, is the worst thing you can do in one of these types of situations. You know what I'm saying, Ellie? I hate it. I think it's the worst. I don't like when, and it starts with the name of the trial. Right here it says Elijah McClain murder trial, right? So right away you're like already putting Elijah McClain kind of in a bad light, even like the word, it's the semantics of it, right? So then you get into it and you realize, oh, it's not Elijah McClain on trial. It's Cooper and Chizizniak or whatever his name is, Um, Anon Mouse, welcome. Nice to have you here. Yeah, they had no justified reason to even approach Elijah. I agree with you, Anon Mouse, on that. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so let's start from the beginning here, Ellie, and then we'll get into the trial and what we think is going to happen, what we don't think is going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a lot of victim blamings, right? And I think a lot of provocateurs just go into chats just to rile people up. They don't really truly believe that Elijah McClain was smart mouthing. I mean, you listened to the tape like I did, Ellie. Did you see any smart mouthing by Elijah McClain?
No,
Okay,
zero.
zero.
Zero. He was extremely polite. He didn't curse. He said, he goes, I wouldn't even kill a fly. I don't
Yeah,
do that. I'm an introvert. I'm
yeah,
just different. Not a crime.
yeah. Grim Fairy, nice to
But
have
let's
you.
remember when the paramedics asked if he was under arrest, the cop's reply was, "Well, I'm sure that there'll be charges later," because they couldn't think of anything.
Yeah,
Because they actually said, "Well, there's been no crime." you know and then when they asked if he was under arrest, it was, well, I'm sure there'll be charges later. Well, I'm curious what those charges would have been. Are you going to say that it was what, resisting? Well, you can't say that, because A, he wasn't resisting, but B, that would be a secondary charge.
yeah,
What is your first charge? Because he was dancing. This is a kid who was 23, who was an introvert, who enjoyed on his own time being a self-taught violinist and guitar player, who on his off time went to the pet shops and the what was it, the animal shelters, and played his violin to help keep the animals calm.
yeah,
This is the life that was snuffed out.
yeah.
You have got to be kidding me.
I mean, of all people, like even in the George Floyd case, they did it right. They victim blamed. Oh well, there must have been something in this guy.
Well, it was the supposed fake counterfeit $20 bill that he used. That's why
Right,
the cops were there.
right,
You
right.
know,
Oh,
and again,
he's
I don't know if it was or wasn't, but it's ridiculous.
yeah. Kip says I completely agree with Ellie on this case. Kip, you will find that you will agree with Ellie probably 99% of the time, because she always brings the receipts. I also think the cops approached Elijah thinking he was troubled. No doubt, Kip. Look, let me give you guys an inside perspective for all the new people in here. I live and work and breathe in Denver, in the Denver metro area, and a big part of that is Aurora. And I've um, uh, been in and around Aurora my whole life. I've lived in Aurora before. I know the culture. I know the people. I know the streets. I know all of these streets like the back of my hand. I know the cops. And I've said this quite often, and I'm glad people are starting to realize that Aurora happens to be one of the worst police forces in the entire nation. So I just want people to understand from an inside perspective. In the past couple of years, my body of work speaks for itself. I've dealt with Denver cops, Aurora cops, cops in and around the Denver metro area, and Denver and Aurora by far are the worst, and they are some of the worst in the country. And what I mean by that is I've run into several cops that want to bully you, give you orders that are, not only um, not lawful. They're unconstitutional. Um, they they take advantage of people, and it goes deep. I've done investigative work, Ellie. You know this. I've uncovered quite a few things about the Aurora PD that are quite embarrassing. Starting with the hiring process, I always say that the hiring process needs to be fixed. Before anything else. All right. I exposed a cop that was hired, that eventually was involved in an officer involved shooting, and while he was on leave, paid leave, beat the hell out of a older Hispanic woman because she was in front of his car. Now, come to find out, this officer was hired because, quote, he cheated on his entrance exam, and the board that oversaw that at the time let him go through because, quote, they were understaffed. So you can see the quality of people that are being hired in Aurora. I've also exposed the amount of money that these people are making. It's ungodly. All right, there's a sergeant that's basically sitting on his ass in Aurora headquarters that's making 141,000 base pay, after he was found to cover up for a guy that was sleeping on the job, an officer that was sleeping on the job. So the corruption is thick in Aurora, and I've delved into it quite a bit. So anybody that tells me I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm talking about, you're just like everybody else. You hate cops and all this. No, I don't hate cops. I hate corrupt cops. That's what I say. I hate corrupt cops. So let's get back to this trial, Ellie. What is your feeling right now? Without just what do you think the verdict is going to be on both of them?
I think Cooper's going to be found guilty, and I think the Cheswick, whatever his name is, I think might be a hung jury.
So you think we have a split decision in this case?
And I do, but understand that I would much rather have a hung jury than have an acquittal, because the state will absolutely re-prosecute them. But if there's an acquittal, they can't face double jeopardy. Yeah. And here's something that, again, is being falsed out, a false thing being put out there when they're making comments, and I'm going to explain both sides. Let's talk about EMS, because this is the trial that we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. Neither of the defendants have been terminated. As a matter of fact, just a few months after the murdering of Elijah McClain, one of them was promoted to captain. So stop with the narrative that, well, they lost their job. Isn't that enough? They did not lose their job. They actually got promoted. Okay, so enough with that. Now let's go to the three police. Two were acquitted, mm-hmm. and one was found guilty. Okay, so I want to explain that. The one that was, two were acquitted, but the one was rehired. So he is on the force now. That is the Woodyard or Woodyard. Woodyard. Yeah. He was rehired. He has not been integrated yet.
Yeah.
The other one was found guilty. The one that was acquitted but is not on the force, he was not terminated because of the actions of taking Elijah's life with a chokehold. He was terminated because he was part of the three other officers who reenacted at the memorial site where Elijah died the chokeholds. And when they sent him the pictures to, quote, cheer him up, his response was, and I quote, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is why he was terminated.
Right.
So you have to understand, they try to hold on to these officers as much and as tightly as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not terminated until, the charges were filed, except for the one because of his reply to the text message. So I just want to make sure that, people are putting out the facts and not made up stuff in the case.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair.
Let me clarify something I said in the other chat, Ellie, that people were kind of wondering about. I said that Officer Woodyard is on my radar. What I mean by that is I will make sure that to my best of my abilities, that Woodyard is not going to do this same shit to somebody else. And what I mean by that is, like I said, I'm on the streets all the time in Aurora, and I will find Woodyard, and I will make sure and hold him accountable if he does something nefarious with my camera.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I am extremely shocked that Woodyard even came back to Aurora, because you have to use the one brain cell that you might have left.
Yeah.
To understand that this was not only national news, but the uproar in Aurora, that the community that you are supposed to serve does not want you there.
Yeah.
So do you really think it's a wise idea for you to go there and rub it in that family's face?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Ellie. It is rubbing it in the family's face, and it's ridiculous. I know Shanine. Shanine is Elijah McClain's mom, and I asked her. I think it was either me or Kate. I'd asked her if why she's staying in Aurora. Is she not? Why isn't she moving? She's like, this is my home. She did move out of her residence, but she stayed in Aurora, right? Aurora, she considers Aurora her home. So to sit there and blatantly go back to a force where nobody, and I mean nobody, the community, and I have a pulse on the community, and so does K Dot. If you guys aren't subscribed to DJ K Dot the party, you're gonna want to make sure and do so. And I know most of my people are, but we have a pulse on the community, and you're right, Ellie. The community is absolutely livid that this guy is being let back out into the field so that he can continue his reign of terror on the citizens of Aurora. So that's what I mean by he's on my radar. I will be actively searching for this guy when I'm out and about doing my cop watches and other stuff. I will be keeping an eye out for him. And by the way, I can look up rosters, so I'll know where this guy is. I will find him, and I will make sure that he doesn't do this to anybody again. At least if I have anything to say about it. Jamie, MLH is going to find Wood. Yeah, my own probably, Jamie. Meredith says, if I were any of these people, I would either move and or do something that no longer on this planet. Yeah, maybe be an astronaut, Meredith. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, the caller, I give a little more leniency towards Meredith because the caller was 17 years old, was concerned. He didn't want any of this to happen. This was all on top of the EMT.
And I agree with MLH because me and him have talked about this, but I do want to comment on Meredith's comment with that.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I don't understand why, but I absolutely think that caller should have been put on the stand.
I agree.
I understand he was 17 in 2019, but he is not in 2023.
Yeah.
And he started this.
Yeah.
Now, he's not responsible
right
for what grown men with a gun do or grown men with needles and medication do. But 100%, he needs to be put on that stand to ask, why did you find it necessary to even dial 911? When your comment to 911, and I quote was, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, then why did you call? What did you think the crime was? I do hope he feels guilt and remorse. Do I
I
think he
don't
needs to be charged criminally? No.
I
But
don't
I
think he
do think that he should feel
necessarily.
remorse for the
Right.
rest of his life. Why? Because he didn't use his brain cells to think, well, is he bothering anybody? No. Was I concerned for him? No. You weren't concerned for him because you made the comment saying that he was sketchy. You didn't say, hey, there's this guy walking around. I'm afraid he might have a mental illness, which, by the way, for the record, is a bad thing to do to call people with guns with somebody that's mentally ill.
I
Not
agree.
a smart move at all. It
Couldn't
never
agree.
ends well. Okay. But listen, was he hanging in the streets and attacking cars? What exactly did you see? Because from the 911 call I heard,
Yeah.
the 911 dispatcher did not do any justice because she didn't ask any questions and she repeated the story differently. But I want to know, to a 17-year-old, to teach them, because they need to be educated. Apparently, their parents couldn't do it. To say, could you tell me what crime do you charge somebody who you think is, quote, sketchy? And sketchy is an opinion or a crime, because I need to tell you, sketchy is not a crime. Just like being different is
Well,
not a crime. Being
I
mentally ill is not a crime.
right. I put in the chat. By the way, he's not mentally ill.
And
Let's
he's not. And,
yeah,
and I'm glad you said that. For the record, he did not suffer from being on the spectrum or being
no.
um, autistic. He was just an introvert. He was never diagnosed with that. The family is please asking to stop saying that.
Right. He is not on the
Some
spectrum.
news have taken it off, but I do see it in some comments and I do see it on some people's YouTube. It is a false narrative to say that he was, autistic. He was not autistic. So
Right.
please do not keep saying that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely offensive to the family and to the victim.
Right. 100, Ellie. 100.
And even if he was, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
More reason why you should have
Right.
just left him alone.
Right. Right. So okay. Let me put I put a comment in the other chat, Ellie, and it said, because it was due to one person. He was, I don't know if it's a he or she, but they were being provocateur ish, right? For lack of a better term, but they were saying, the smart mouthing and blah blah blah. And so I put in the chat. So smart mouthing equals cops come and immediately arrest you and kill you. Is that right? I mean, so for the crime of smart mouthing, you deserve to die. Is basically the point I was making, and of course there was no comeback. There's no, nothing.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Kip, Kip, Kip 24, you just made a good point. He said, and not that I think this, but he said that to him, the
yeah,
caller sounded high.
yeah.
Here's the thing. How do you know the caller wasn't?
I
How do
know
you know
we
he
don't.
wasn't intoxicated? How do you know he didn't just have a beef with Elijah or
Yeah,
that somebody told him to call because he didn't? How do you know? You don't know because he
listen,
wasn't on the
that's
stand.
right.
You have these grown men that took the word of a minor against somebody who was doing nothing without ever talking to him. You
Yeah,
whispered down the lane and made it be from sketchy to suspicious and waving at vehicles, which was not reported by the caller. Okay, but translated differently through the 911 dispatcher, who again was new and should not have been left alone. But apparently, if the 911 operator didn't say, "Hey, listen, I'm still new here. I think I should have my supervisor with me because that's what the book says to do with the protocol," they should all be brought up on charges. Every last one of them.
I agree, Ellie. I mean, it's a hard sell, especially in
Hey,
today's society.
conspiracy. Good to see you, hon.
Yes, conspiracy. Nice to have you in here, my friend. I agree, Ellie. I think they all should have been had some sort of charges, right? Because the dispatcher changed the narrative, right? It went from what the guy was saying, I don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy, to I can't remember the exact testimony, Ellie. But the dispatcher changed it in a way that made the cops already feel like maybe this guy's a threat, right? By the way, let me point out something as well. Suspicion is not a crime. Wearing a ski mask in itself is not a crime. Wearing a hoodie is not a crime. Waving your arms is not a crime. Dancing
Because
is
listen,
not a
if waving your arms and dancing is a crime in public, I have been oh so guilty of dancing while going in my vehicle. Please don't report me for DUI. I promise you I don't drink alcohol at all. But it could cost me my life. So please mind your business
well.
if you see me dancing while driving down the road.
Don't ever visit Aurora.
God knows.
Don't ever and see. I take a chance every day I'm out there. I just have the luck of being fairly slick and knowing my rights and stuff like that, and having a hell of a partner in KDOT. But yeah, I mean, for anybody else living in Aurora, uh, pretty much could be considered a crime according to
Now,
officers.
Fab Daddy is asking, he said, I missed the closing arguments. How did the attorneys do? Well, I happen to watch all of that, so I can answer that for you.
Yes.
I think the state had an extremely powerful closing. If you did not know Elijah, you definitely knew him between the opening and the closing that the state did. Now, the attorneys, they did victim blaming, cop blaming, and finger pointing.
Yeah.
So I think their closing was extremely weak, and they tried to nitpick words and their interpretation of the law instead of the interpretation of the facts and what happened.
Yeah.
So that's the best way that I can answer that for you.
Yeah, let me wrap this up because we're going on an hour here. We're still, for those that are just joining, we're on verdict watch in the man. I hate this, but I'm the Cooper and Chizizniak trial, or however you how do
Right,
you?
that's it. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, I got it. I can't believe I got it.
Yeah, I
Chichuniak,
can't exactly say it, but you
right?
got it.
Trial, not the Elijah McClain trial. That's the victim in this case. So, real quickly, my opinion is I know this might be a little controversial, but I actually think this jury is going to come back not guilty, and I'll tell you why, Ellie. Statistics show that if a jury is in deliberations for more than like 9 or 10 hours, 80% of the time the verdict comes back not guilty. So that's the first
Or hung.
but mostly not guilty. I do agree with you though. This is a little more nuanced than that. So there is still hope that there's at least one guilty verdict. But here's my feelings on the matter. I hope that it goes one way or another for this reason, because I know Shanine, and Shanine, I hope for justice for her, but I also hope for closure. I don't want this to be a hung jury in either event, because I want her to be able to be at peace with herself and move on.
But see, here's one thing that you're missing with that,
Yeah.
and it's a very important thing, and it brings two things to it. Was the jury asked 4 questions yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
here's my problem with that. Number one, we don't know what the questions are,
Yeah.
and this is supposed to be public. Number two, the judge is 100% biased in this. Why we can't see who our public servants are on the stand is beyond me. He definitely, I think, does not want these people found guilty. I think he's made that clear in there.
Mm-hmm.
And also for the people, and I do want to mention this before I forget because I keep forgetting, this came up on whether it was a hate crime or a race crime. Listen, I'm not willing to go on and say either because I don't have enough facts for that. But I will say, could it be possible? 100, because they knew that Elijah was black when they got the call.
Yeah.
And they are more predominantly in Aurora, but that doesn't mean that they all are. The majority of Black people do seek, or not seek, I'm sorry, wrong word, do or are the victims of the Aurora police.
Yeah.
So 100% that they are. So could it be Yes, to say it's not absolutely would be wrong and would be making assumptions, just like to say that it is. There isn't enough to it for me to make that accusation, but can I see it? Yeah, I can, because the call came over with black male wearing ski mask, acting suspicious, waving arms at the crowd, walking down the streets, 911 report here immediately. Okay, so yeah, absolutely it can be. And they could tell he wasn't wearing gloves. The caller, it was asked, what he looked like and whether he was black or white. So, could it be racial? It could be, but it's a possibility. What I'm saying is that when they went to that scene, they were agitated and angry
Yeah,
before ever seeing
yeah.
Elijah. They
I
decided to go hands on in less than
yeah.
30 seconds.
Honestly, in my opinion, Ellie, that I can't say for sure, but knowing what I know specifically about the Aurora PD, I think they do have a hell of a racist staff there. Um, it's
I agree. I agree. So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It could be. Let's not say for sure that it's not.
yeah, I
That's
can't.
why I try to keep
Right,
race out of it,
right.
because we can't say for sure.
Yeah, I can't be sure, but if someone were to put a gun to my head and put a bet on it, I would bet on it that
And here's the thing, Kip. You know, yeah, the cops were on alert, but they didn't even give Elijah, in my opinion, a chance to comply. He never. They went 30 seconds. They went hands on. They didn't say, "Sir, we received a 911 call. We wanted to make sure that you were okay. What's going on?" Nothing. It was, "Stop. You're going to you're going to answer our questions right now. We're detaining you." Up in handcuffs, chokehold, throw to the ground, and then body slammed him.
How many times, Ellie, have I been on a cop watch and the first thing a cop says to me is, go stand over there, or give some type of unlawful directive, right? How many times have you seen that?
A
It's
lot.
it's their way of asserting whether or not you agree with me. Cop watching is one thing, right? I mean, I know there are a lot of people that are on my channel that hate what I do and complain and bitch and moan about you should be more respectful and blah 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 blah, right? Well, how many times have they like given me unlawful directives? Like that's something that nobody ever thinks about. If they were just to leave me alone, do you think we would even have one word to say to each other, Ellie? Do you think things would escalate and be any worse than when I first showed up there? The answer is no. I'm not I'm very peaceful unless you provoke, right? So you know, uh, you're absolutely correct. They should have went there and asked, "Are you okay? What's going on?" "Oh, I'm just walking home, dancing." "Well, we got a report of you, waving your arms erratically. We just wanted to make sure you okay. You're okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay, well, just make sure not to, you
And
know."
that's only because the 911 dispatcher sent them out. To be honest, the 911 dispatcher should have never have dispatched the police to begin with.
Yeah.
She should have said, "Well, is he doing a crime?" She said, "Does he have any weapons? Did he say he was going to hurt anybody?" No.
Okay.
So why are you even dispersing them?
Right. Don't
That
even.
makes no sense to disperse them at all. So, I mean, it was, listen, the best way I can explain this is for poor Elijah. It was the perfect storm of a nosy 17-year-old who was taught see something, say something, to a 911 operator who was inexperienced, who thought, "Oh, yes, every call, let's send out men with guns," to the police who hear, "Oh, sketchy, suspicious blackmail with a ski mask in August. Oh, that sounds weird," to, "Oh, wait, he didn't stop and automatically listen to my first command of, which really wasn't even a command except stop." Okay. So let's put him in handcuffs and in a chokehold twice, a carotid chokehold twice,
Yeah.
which is the only reason why they called the paramedics, was because they were required to, when
Right.
they do it even once, let alone they did it twice.
Right.
To when the call came from dispatch to EMS to saying, "Bring your special K with you," that they took not one piece of equipment out of there. And on the stand, when asked by prosecution, all the things that could have assisted. There was like 9 or 10 things that could have assisted with Elijah in this case. Okay. Did you bring any of that stuff off of the vehicles? And his response was, and I quote, "We needed the ketamine." So you didn't need anything else, but you needed that syringe filled with that deadly drug that was going to kill a man for weighing
Yeah.
140 pounds that you gave that would be for somebody over 220. It
Right.
was the perfect storm
Yeah.
for him. And
From
his crime was going out and getting iced tea.
right. From a purely moral perspective, right? I like to look at things in different prisms, Ellie. And from a moral perspective, the right thing to do for the EMTs would have been to make sure that he was breathing, and even maybe say to the cops, look, lay off of him a little bit here. We need to do our work, right? I know that's kind of playing fire with cops, but I'm playing from a morality point of view. But from my point of view, if I consider myself a super moral person, Ellie. You know how I am. I mean, how long have we known each other now? We know each other are really moral. We always try to do the right thing and stuff like that. So from my perspective, if I was the MT, I would have been like, look, guys, let us work on him. Let's make sure he's breathing.
Yeah, the minute they get on scene, it's now their case.
Right.
Okay, everybody please back up so we can evaluate the patient.
Yeah. Let's evaluate.
But all you brought, and I'm sorry, I want to correct myself because I did make a mistake. They were not just asked for the ketamine. They were also asked to make sure they had the restraints.
Yeah, restraints.
Without anything, not a single question. And then you say, oh, you didn't hear him saying that he can't breathe? But yet, when an officer was several feet away from you and sneezed, you said, God bless you.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You God bless somebody with a sneeze, but allowed somebody to sit there and drown in their vomit and over medicate them with even any amount of ketamine was over medicating. But an overdose of 500 milligrams of ketamine to somebody that you had no knowledge or any history and saw no evidence of excited delirium.
Right.
Excited delirium is a definition for, protect the police and officer safety. That's what excited delirium means. Yeah. It means officer safety.
Yeah, because you can use that for almost any case, right? When I go cop watch, Ellie, if a cop turned and shot me, they could say, wow, he was in an excited delirium state, and nobody would even question it, right? Nobody would even think twice about it. Oh, they must be right. He was excited. He was yelling. He was cursing. He was, doing this and that and the other, which, by the way, Elijah McClain did none of the above. He actually was.
And I don't know who made the comment. I forget. I'd have to go back and find it. But I do agree with whoever said it, that if Elijah was white, the police's reactions would have been different.
You know what?
Whether the outcome would be different, I don't know. It would have probably depended on the behavior, but I 100% believe in approaching him that if he was white, it would have absolutely have been a different encounter from the very beginning of contact.
They would have asked. They would have been like, "Are you all right, sir? Are you,
Yeah.
We got a report of somebody waving their arms at cars or whatever the report was, right? Whatever the call was.
Oh, I wasn't waving at cars. That's not what the caller said. Just that he was sketchy and he was waving his hands in the air.
Right. Whatever the dispatcher told them, though. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, the dispatcher's totally different.
Yeah, whatever the dispatcher told. We got a call of somebody waving their arms at cars or whatever the case, whatever the dispatcher said. It would have been, you're right, it would have been different. It would have, it would have, it might have ended up a lot.
Hey, Rosie.
I'm not saying it would have ended up, not with the same result, but at least the beginning would have.
Right, that's what I'm saying. From the first initial contact, I do believe that it would have been different. I can't say the outcome would have been because Aurora police are who they are, Yeah. So I honestly can't say that. They have a serious problem with their egos. And if you question authority, forget it. You might as well just inject yourself, because in reality, that's just the way they look at us. And I hate using that, but I get that from them. They started with this officer safety, this protect us from them. So
Yeah.
they look at every single citizen as the enemy, and you have to prove yourself innocent, that you are not the enemy.
Yeah.
So you're guilty before they ever get on scene.
Yeah. Jamie said,
Understand that whenever the cops are called on whoever, for whatever reason, regardless of whatever it is,
yeah.
you are guilty
Yeah.
from
You're
the
guilty.
beginning
Yep. And,
before they ever step on scene.
and a lot of times it's judge, jury, and that's executioner time for
Yeah.
this, right?
And that's not their job. That's not what it started out to be. That was not the
Right.
purpose of it.
Right. There's a, well, we can debate that, Ellie, because that's for a different show. But there's a comic book out there. I don't know. Excuse me. Sorry. I don't know if anybody has ever read comic books, but there's a comic book out there called Judge Dredd, and it's pretty much society today. The cops come in, they decide what's right and wrong, and they act accordingly. Judge, jury, and executioner. Judge, jury, and executioner. So, if you get a chance, that comic is fantastic. It's more of a mature take. Like there's a lot of graphic novels that you can rent from the library. Does anybody even get books from the library anymore? It's kind of a lost art, I think.
Yeah, sadly it is.
But I mean the information's online, so you can get it there too. It's a super interesting. They had it right in the fucking 90s in that comic book, right? They foresaw what's coming here. Jamie made a good point too, and I want to address this too. Jamie, two things can be true at the same time, right? There can be racism in policing, and there can also be racism against poor people as well. He says he's seen homeless white guys get killed for less. I agree. And two things can be true at the
Well,
same time.
right, but you have to understand that, homeless people from the get-go are not considered part of society. There's something wrong with you if you're poor. You're automatically guilty if you're poor because you must want to steal from those who have,
Right.
I mean, which again is a false narrative that people put out there, but it's sad.
Yeah. Meredith says, uh, MLH, wasn't it so satisfying and telling to watch Rodima squirm? It wasn't satisfying for this reason, Meredith. It actually made me sad because why are we at this point? But I agree with the sentiment. But I did like to watch him squirm. I like watching both of them squirm when I was in there because they both were very uncomfortable, as they should have been. Um, it's just sad that we have to get to this point, right? That we're now at this point in society that we have to hope and pray and put up the chakras or whatever religion you are in order to just get some form of justice, right? Our justice system needs reform. Meredith is what I'm saying. We've discussed this before, and I know we don't got a lot of time here, Ellie, but I I've said this before. I think cops should be given double the sentence for any crimes that
100%.
I think that I mean if you truly believe that and there's debate on this whether or not a sentence is a deterrent, right? Amount of time, amount of money, whatever is a deterrent. Well, if that's the case, then we should be doubly as vigilant with our police, and they should get double the.
Yeah, if you're going to put them on a pedestal,
Yeah.
then when they fall, and you should never put anybody on a pedestal because there's only one way down. You can't go up once you're on that pedestal. But if
Yeah.
you're going to put them on a pedestal, when they fall, absolutely they need to be double because you're putting yourself in a category that you're above all. Well, then guess what? When you're not, you get double. I don't put anybody because they have a badge or because they have a medical degree or because they're a paramedic or in any position above. I go based on the facts.
Yeah.
I am not the judge. I'm not the prosecutor. I'm not the defense. I'm always the jury. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there listening to the facts. I'm capable of making my own intelligent decision without being a sheep on following somebody because they wear a costume. That's ridiculous. But people are making that comment in the other chat. Well, they're officers or they're paramedics, and they just made a mistake. Oh, so you're going to say, oopsie,
Yeah.
oopsie, that you never took any vitals.
Yeah.
Oopsie that you didn't have your medical equipment ready. Oopsie that you misjudged his weight by 110 pounds.
Oh, no.
Oopsie that even though you knew, or even though you assumed how much he weighed, you still gave him more than what was. And
That,
oopsie that you let him lay on the ground for minutes more, and you never took his pulse until he was in the ambulance, and that's when you found out that he coded and he was dead.
yeah.
Oopsie, that's a lot of oopsies. Which
You know,
which oopsie are we going to forgive here? Which
that was
oopsie is the mistake?
that probably was one of the most comical things in the trial so far that I've heard. Ellie, is when I can't remember which one said it, whether it was, I think it was Chichuniak, said that he assessed himself at he weighs about 250 pounds, and he thought Elijah McClain weighed about 50 pounds less than him. And I was like, in what world did you think Elijah McClain weighed 200 pounds? Like it wasn't even possible. Like football players are 200 pounds.
Well,
You know what I mean?
to the gross negligence of having somebody's weight off by 110 pounds is absurd. Is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't get to guess in that. You're supposed to do
Right.
due diligence. And how about if you didn't know his weight, maybe say, excuse me, sir, do you know how much you weigh? Oh
Right.
no, that would have been a question. You can't do that. You've
Well,
already predetermined to medicate him.
well, no, that was a great point, Ellie, because if he even asked him that one question, he would have noticed that he was vomiting and, sick, and maybe needed his airways cleared, and possibly could have prevented this whole thing, right? But they didn't ask any questions. It's just ketamine.
Susie, you're incorrect.
Oh,
Excited delirium is code word for CYA officer safety. That's what that is for. It is not recognized in the medical field at all.
Yeah.
Okay. It is not a diagnosis. Okay. It is an experience. And to say that Elijah McClain experienced this super strength that he could, again, this is what they want you to believe, that he was handcuffed by vomiting with 3 grown men on top of him and still managed to do a push-up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Please explain the possibilities there.
You know what? Meredith and Kip were in that chat. You know who we're talking about when we talk about like the dissenter, the provocateur. That person mentioned mentioned a lot of things, but they were mentioning. I just lost my train of thought. Man, it happens from time to time, but I don't know. I was laughing at the mental gymnastics. That were
people who think that oopsie is that becomes the civil part, and the family already got 15 million, so they've suffered enough. Let me tell you about that 15 million that was covered by insurance and also covered by the taxpayers of Aurora, not by the people who did it. So yet innocent people who were not even on scene are having to pay for their oopsie. Okay, I'm sorry, but there's accountability. Just like if a doctor does something. Okay, yes, there is a difference between civil and having medical malpractice. This was not medical malpractice. This was a straight, unqualified decision because you didn't do your job. You let the power of the police tell you what to do. You didn't come up with in your own medical assessment, because there was no assessment, to say, okay, this is what we're going to need to do. We're going to need to give Elijah some ketamine. How much do you think we should give? That conversation didn't happen. The conversation happened when the police asked for the ketamine and they said, okay, how much should we give? Let's give them the max. And on stand, he said, because they didn't want to have to call a doctor and waste time. That's why.
Meredith brought up a good point here. She says, I love Chuniak's claim that it was more dangerous to give him less and err on the safe side. So in order to err on the safe side, give him more. Let's just give him the max. Fuck it. It's better to err on that side than to give him less. I mean, that's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard, Meredith. I'm glad you caught that. I wish you were one of the jurors, because we might have a guilty verdict on both.
I'll be honest. If I was on the jury, if I could not, after days and days, and listen, trust me, the Christmas holiday would not stop me. Right. We would be coming back after Christmas, and only at a point where the judge said, okay, this has to be a verdict, or if you can't come to one, I assure you that that verdict would be guilty or would be hung, because there is no way I would be leaving. I could not live with myself if I left that jury room and came back with an acquittal. It just would not happen.
No, I agree. I would have made steadfast. My view is guilty. Period. That's it. And nothing can convince me based on the fact that
And Mitch, you're correct. You're correct. That part of excited delirium is having a break from reality. When he was able to speak, he was able to articulate his words and answer every question that was asked of him. He was able to say, please help. I don't do that. I don't kill fly. He was addressing their questions the best that he could. There was absolutely no excited delirium. And the paramedics even confirmed that without realizing it, if the jury picks it up, to say that you did that because you wanted to just get him away from the cops because they were mistreating him and body slamming him. Then why did you give him the ketamine? You can't say that. You said when you arrived on scene that he was just laying there and he moved a little, but you can't tell if it was the cops that moved him or if he moved himself. So you can't say that it was excited delirium.
Why would that?
Yes, we could, Mitch.
Why would he be given ketamine anyways? He was in fucking handcuffs.
He never should have been given ketamine.
Right.
Never.
Not. I mean. Anyways,
it was you're going to comply.
Yeah.
You're going to comply. And here's the paramedic saying, oh, so he was a pain for you? Well, we don't want to have to deal with him. So yeah, okay, let's drug him up so we don't got to deal with him. Then we can just drop him off at the hospital and let them deal with it. But by then it was already too late. He coded in there 3 times and he was already brain dead.
Yeah.
It was the family that had to make that decision.
I don't know what you're
to take him off.
By the way, Cajun Randy, welcome. And I don't know the answer to your question. Is he says, well, so why come? Is it not the reason the cop in Florida died? Yeah, I don't
understand that.
Yeah, I don't know which.
I don't know what you're referring to.
I don't either. But look here. The bottom line is Elijah McClain was murdered, right? And the fact that these trials were separated was a huge coup in favor of the defense, because there's all the finger pointing, and then in the court of public opinion, you can see it in this Law and Crime Trials stream. It's all about
and let's not forget, all the people that you see seeing behind the defense is a ploy for the jury to send out a fake narrative. Those are family and friends of the people on the defense, not because people think that they're innocent.
Right.
Okay. And their coworkers who are off duty. Okay. So all of that is a ploy to lead the jury to believe that, oh, everybody's standing behind these poor defenseless EMS. Listen, the only poor defenseless person on August 24th of 2019 was Elijah McClain.
Right. And by the way, I did sit on that side, Ellie, for a very specific reason. I could see the jury. And real quickly, my observations of the jury, somebody was saying that it was a very, very young jury. That's not the case. There was a lot of older people. I think probably over half of the jury was in their 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. And the other ones that were quote unquote younger were a little bit older.
That's correct, Mitch.
Yeah.
It was a clear case of pass the buck and make it Elijah's fault for dancing while black.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Or even dancing while a citizen, not necessarily even black. He was the enemy because he wasn't part of the thin blue line.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if they would have asked, maybe they would have found out. Maybe he was a recruit. Nobody would have known anything about Elijah because they never asked him anything.
Nobody asked anything.
Nobody asked. He volunteered his name. They didn't ask for ID or anything.
Right. All right. There's plenty more. I'm probably going to have a part 2 to this. So the new people, I'm looking at you, Meredith, and Kip. Thank you both for joining. I really, really appreciate it. I know I kind of sniped you guys from Law and Crime Trials, and I'm really glad you guys are here. There's more to come, and I hope you guys stay tuned to my channel, because I do a lot to expose a lot of the bullshit and corruption that's in Aurora and Denver, and I think you guys will find eye-opening at times. So, hopefully you'll stick around. Any final thoughts, Ellie, before we end?
Yeah, stop victim blaming people. Elijah is not on trial, for the love of God.
I know.
You know, you got to take the facts into play. And for those saying, oh, well, you can't make decisions based on body cam. Really? What would you like me to make a decision based on what the cops said? Because listen, the false narrative of he reached for somebody's gun and tried to take the gun was a lie. Because I would think that the person whose gun was going to be taken from would have known it, and he didn't know. When it was reported, he's like, oh, really? I didn't know. I didn't feel it. So why are you putting out that false narrative that he reached for somebody's gun? He didn't.
I know what Cajun Randy's talking about now. This is an interesting one, Ellie, and he brings up a good point. He's talking about when there was a cop in Florida that was wrestling with a quote suspect that was that not excited delirium? He had a heart attack. He had a heart attack while wrestling with a quote suspect, and he passed away. And
Could
they
it be
gave
because he was 325 pounds and out of shape?
right,
Could be because he couldn't put down the donuts.
right,
Listen,
right.
excited delirium is just crap.
It
I'm
is.
going to be honest. It's just crap.
It's a nonsense thing. I agree. I've looked at it several different ways, Ellie, and I don't see the justification for it. And there's not a doctor in the world that would stand
They
behind.
don't recognize excited delirium.
No, they don't.
There's no diagnosis.
It's a non
You're
thing.
diagnosed with excited delirium. Come on, don't be ridiculous, people.
Right. It's a non thing. So, all right, final thoughts, Ellie.
Like I said, guys, don't be a sheeple and just follow anybody blindly. Don't follow me blindly. Don't follow MLH blindly. Most certainly don't follow the police blindly, who are taught and trained on how to lie,
Yeah.
or somebody that's on trial that has a reason to lie. Look at the facts and make an intelligent decision. For the love of God, you look really uneducated and uninformed and silly to come in to trial day 10 and then just all of a sudden say, you know, it was Elijah's fault because would he have, just complied? Why should you comply with a false narrative and things that are wrong? You shouldn't. The law protects you on that. The Supreme Court in Tennessee said that you are allowed, if you fear for your life, allowed to fight even a police officer. So please stop putting out false narratives like that.
Right.
Elijah was fighting to breathe, not fighting the police. He had a right to live.
Right. So my final thoughts are this. First of all, like I said, thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate it. I want to thank
and my new friends that joined. Thank you.
Yeah, I really want to thank Ellie for being.
Yep, and Meredith, I appreciate it.
Yep. I want to thank Ellie for being up on panel and providing really great insight. I hope you guys enjoyed my insight of being inside that courtroom with these.
And please go over to the Law and Crime Trial channel after this. If you can't find it, just put in Elijah McClain trial and then hit the live button and it'll come up and you can join chat and watch us all while we watch for the verdict. Because I'd like to see you there. And there's a lot of great people over there that I think you would like that, truly understand, what's going on here.
Yeah. I will be over there for a short time. I've got other stuff to do today, but again, I want to thank everybody for joining. I really, really appreciate everybody for being here. I'm sure you'll find lots of great content on my channel. Leave a comment on any of the videos. I do a comment show, which I will be doing tomorrow sometime in the morning. So hopefully you guys will join for that. So if you leave a comment, that's what that show's all about. I get back to everybody, which I don't think there's a channel out there, Ellie, that does a comment show like I do. So
no, you don't. It's awesome. And you're welcome, McDonald. I'm glad that you could be here. And Kip, listen, you're always welcome here. Just truly a pleasure to have you guys here and getting to know you in the other chat. I think that there's a lot more people that we need before we're ever going to see a change. So, share this channel out. Let's get people who can think together to hold people accountable, because if you don't hold people accountable because of an occupation, something is wrong. You're saying that somebody is above the law, and nobody, regardless of their occupation, is above the law.
Right.
Nobody. If
Right.
I don't have that right to be above the law and I don't want to be, why would a paramedic or a police officer or a judge or an attorney be above the law? Think about that. It makes absolutely no sense.
Right. Um, let's see here. Denizen, you missed everything. That's what you missed. He said, who is Elijah McClain? I tell you what, Denizen, join me and Ellie. I'll be there for a short time on Law and Crime Trial Channel. Just search for it. We'll be over there for, at least I'll be over there for a little while. Again, thanks everybody for joining. I really appreciate the discussion. Thank you to Ellie so much for the insight. I really appreciate it. Dennison says America is not a nation of laws. Well, I mean, debatable, but I agree, mostly, Dennison. Um, so, yeah, check us out over there. We're on Verdict Watch. Ellie's been awesome. I've been okay, I guess. But thank you guys so much. Hopefully, see you guys tomorrow for the comment show and other videos that I do on the channel. Make sure you comment.
Yes, Cajun, on that channel.
Yeah, it was Cajun. Sorry, I didn't answer your question earlier, Cajun, but yes.
Actually, you know what? Hold on 1 second before you end it, and I'm
Yeah.
going to put the link in chat. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, she's going to put the link in chat, but so we'll see you guys over there. I'll be over there for probably another half hour or so. And we'll discuss it further, and you guys can see what we're talking about. There's lots of provocateurs over there, couple in particular that are just mind-blowing, either mind-blowingly dumb or just know exactly what they're doing.
Well, let's just say that they really like the taste of leather.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I know.
Maybe they're suede. I don't know. Maybe they're steel tipped. I don't know. I'm just saying that they have a taste. They like feet.
Yeah.
And anything connected to.
Yep. Denizen, yes, 4 years ago approximately. And it's the last trial of the three finally is coming to an end. We're on Verdict Watch on that. So that's where Ellie and I will be, at least for another half hour or so. On my part, I don't know how long Ellie's going to be.
I'm going to be there for the duration.
Okay. Well,
I got to keep Kip in line. Kip knows. I got to keep Kip in line.
Right on. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Yes, Denizen, there is body cam available. You just have to look for it.
Body cam is available, huh?
One officer was convicted and 2 were acquitted, but there's reasons for that.
Yeah. So I don't think I have anything else, Ellie. Do you?
Nope, just stay safe, everyone, and remember, make up your own minds and the facts. Don't let a position of power, give carte blanche to do whatever they want.
Yeah, and by the way, let me end like I usually end these videos, Ellie, on mental health, since we kind of brought it up here a little bit. If you guys are struggling with your own mental health, make sure you reach out to somebody that you know, love, and trust. In lieu of that, my email is mexicanlonghair@gmail.com. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or a counselor, but I do listen. Sometimes that's all that matters. But if I don't get back to you in a timely fashion, just remember somebody out there thinks you're their favorite. It could save your life. Also, there is a national hotline, 988 in the United States and Canada. 988. If you're struggling, you will get connected to a professional. If you are unsure about talking to somebody, you can also message that number, and you can text back and forth if you're a little too sheepish to talk. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything rational. Talk to somebody first. Okay. With that, I think that's all we have for now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the comment show. Thank you guys.
Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe. We'll see you guys on the next video.